Obviously, one of the keys in any transaction is knowing what the property is worth. Sometimes, as a real estate broker, my opinion is important. Of course, the buyer's opinion is important. The seller's opinion is important. There's another party that sometimes is involved with a loan, sometimes involved with just decisions on taxes or other things, called the appraiser. And their roles changed a bit in my career. And I'm really excited to meet with Glen Kangas, who was referred by a good friend of mine, who's an appraiser based in Pasadena. Glen, thanks so much for taking time with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So you're a real estate appraiser based in Pasadena. How long have you been in the business?
I've been an appraiser for 31 years now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Your business has changed a lot more than our industry has.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, the technology has changed. We've gone from using microfiche and DOS-based forms. So when I started to now everything's, just much more computerized and digital and using tablets in the field and MLS on computers. So it's changed a lot over the years. And so it's fun to keep up with that change.
What kind of products or types of properties do you appraise?
For me, I'm a residential appraiser. So in the appraisal world, residential is single family up to 4 units. There's a lot of attorneys I deal with that sometimes think that because it's an apartment building, it's residential, but 5+ is considered commercial in the appraiser world. So that's a separate license. Although I do have some great referrals of guys who can take care of that because I get that request a lot. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm a residential guy. I've been all over Southern California, and I've gotten more into the estate world and little to do with possible with Fannie Mae stuff.
Got it. And so what that means is estate world, meaning not related to a loan. As a real estate broker, my focus is probate and estate administration real estate. And I often get requests. Somebody passed away, and after 5 or 10 years litigation, they need now file taxes. They have to go back in time. What was this house at 123 Main Street in Huntington Beach worth in 2014? We call that a date of death appraisal. Is that now in probate? If it's a probate case, often it's done by a separate group of people called probate referees, which are really just appraisers. But if it's not in the probate context, we use an appraiser. So Glen, do you do date of death appraisals for estates and for probate?
Yes, absolutely. I do quite a few date of death appraisals, and those are my favorite ones to do because I'm always happy to help people not give money to the government. The primary purpose of a date of death appraisal is for the step-up basis to avoid capital gains. So I love doing that. I love being part of the process of somebody settling the estate. And lots of memories of family and growing up and things like that. So it's fun to witness that.
I get this request from time to time from an attorney, and they'll say, can I get them data on the value of a property going back in time 10 years? And so I want to stop them and say, well, what are you using it for, and what do you need? I can do my broker price opinion. I pull comparables, give my opinion. Or we can get a formal appraisal done by an appraiser. And the attorney always acts like it's magic that we can go back in time, but we're not going back in time. We're just choosing dates of comparables that are 10 years old or so, but the data is fairly available for us.
Correct. Yeah. If I could go back in time, the fee would be much higher because I'm sure the cost of that would be ridiculous. So, but yeah, especially if it's within the time frame of computerized MLS, it's easy to, set your search parameters to a specific time frame so that you can, act like you're doing it as of whatever that date. Although I've had a handful lately that were prior to that. I just did one from 1983, which is a little more challenging. But still, the data is available. The data is, not too hard to find and able to put together. So some takes a little more research than others.
Now, obviously, you have to make certain assumptions about the condition of the property 20 or 30 years ago. So how do you make that assessment, or you just kind of leave that off of the page?
Well, we have to explain, where we're getting our information and what assumptions we do make when we make them. So if there's someone who can answer questions about the property that can tell us what it was like, when you do it and you see it now and it looks like it hasn't been touched in 30 years, you can assume that it was just like that, but newer 30 years ago. But we do verify with the client if there's been any changes. We can also research permits and things like that to see if something was replaced after or before our effective date. And we just document, this is where we got our information from, and this is what we're assuming because we couldn't get the information.
So if you can or can't get in the home, you can still do the appraisal. You just disclose if you could or could not, and what your
Correct.
assumption is based on if you could not. And if you can drive the property or not, again, you just disclose what you did do. As long as you disclose it and share your assumptions, then the reader just has to assume that or not based on what their desire is.
Yeah, correct. In the appraiser world, we're bound by USPAP, so we do have ethical issues, things we have to deal with. But it's basically as long as you explain what you did and why you did it, and the reader of the report can follow that and come to the same conclusions, then you're in good shape. If you make an assumption and then it's easy to find data contradictory, then that's where you could get in some trouble. But yeah, we just explain what we do and why we do it, and if we have limitations, we explain those and take it from there.
What's the most common position or a type of client that's calling you? Is it attorneys? Is it real estate agents? Is it financial planners? Who's the number one or two or three most common source of business for you?
The top referral partners are always realtors, because the realtors are considered the real estate expert in the world of the consumer. So anybody who needs something related to real estate, they call their realtor. Next would be estate planning attorneys. If they refer their clients to me and they say they need that date of death appraisal or that gift tax appraisal or whatever, direct referrals from them. Next would be CPAs. And then you get fiduciaries every once in a while, or financial planners that are a little more hands-on that might take care of that. So, but number one is always realtors. I love meeting realtors. I love talking to realtors because they're also my best source of information when I'm doing research. They're the ones that sold the house, that talk to the buyers, that talk to the sellers. And that's the information I need. So,
It's so interesting you say that, because I get phone calls from appraisers all the time on listings they had. Now, some listings I feel I can share a lot of information about, and other listings, for various reasons, there's litigation involved or there's something very private, and I'm always concerned, but I always feel bad if I can't give the
right.
appraiser the info. I think I shared with you offline, one of my best friends for a long time was my appraiser when I was a lender. And so I feel like I want to help you guys, and you guys help me out. I always feel like when I call an appraiser and try to, I don't want to say steer the direction, but help clarify a situation, right? The property, you're doing a drive-by, here are the photos inside, it's uninhabitable. Or, you're not going to see this when you drive by, but here's the roof, falling in. And most appraisers seem to appreciate that. The occasional guy is a bit short or avoidable. So those relationships are so important.
Yeah. Well, that's the one issue that I've seen in the appraisal world since I've become an appraiser is appraisers tend to be not super personable, very analytical, but not social, and not wanting to get engaged. And then there's many times kind of an adversarial relationship with realtors, and it's just a lack of understanding of everybody's role in the process.
Right.
If you're the realtor, if you're the listing agent, your job is to get as much money as you can for your client, and that's your job. So I have no problem with that. But as the appraiser, my job is to be, say what the market's doing, but we're all in the same arena, so we all need to cooperate, help each other communicate, because the appraisal world is confusing to people, and then the things that realtors deal with is, I'm glad I'm not a realtor. I couldn't deal with half the stuff you guys deal with. I don't have the personality for it. So it's very important though to communicate and to have that open, just relationship, and then work within the parameters of your role in the process.
I'm surprised that appraisers don't reach out more to me as a listing agent. Number one, I'll always give them data. Now, I get it most of the time that agents are giving exaggerated data or bad data or whatever. But if there's something I can help with information or access, I feel like I'd be their best friend to help with that. And then second, like you say, they get business from realtors. So maybe I didn't give you that order, but I might give you your next order. You never know how it works. And so to me, I always try to put people as my future, referral partner hat on until they drop the ball, then you really can't. And so I think those of you and I who've lasted, that's how we've made it. And those that are gruff and rude all the time and confrontational, they're not going to make in this business.
Yeah. Well, the one reason that appraisers don't call realtors more often, number one, they're not trained to do that as often as they should be. The training in the industry is kind of weak at the moment. And then the other thing is, for the lender work, you're just not getting paid a good enough fee to put that kind of research into it. It's just a fact. So when it's, especially when the data is pretty conforming, you don't necessarily need to call every agent on every property. But when you get that outlier, that one that just doesn't seem to fit with everything else,
Right.
man, that phone call just clarifies everything in my mind once I talk to the agent. So
I think those are properties I tend to sell. So I get these appraisals who call me, why is this?
yeah.
They
Well,
always say, like, are you crazy or am I missing something? Oh, I know you're missing this. Oh, well, that makes sense.
yeah, the probate's a whole different world, and the expertise in the probate, arena is very needed to effectively understand those things. So, yeah, you get some pretty wild stuff there, and it makes it interesting to me.
Keeps it interesting. So you've been around for a while. You've seen people come and go. You've seen people who shot like bright stars and burned out. You've seen other people who've grown and built their business over time. I'm sure if I asked you, can name a couple of the people that you would think of as rock solid and superstars. What's the distinction that you see from those real estate agents that you've seen over time build a business and grow and achieve versus those that struggle?
Yeah, I think it applies pretty much in every field, but it's the ones who treat it as a profession, not a job, and the ones who enjoy it. Right? It's helpful to enjoy what you do, and if you take it professionally and treat it that way, those are the ones who are successful, and that applies to agents, that applies to attorneys, that applies to real estate appraisers, and the ones who don't realize the significance of what they're doing and to take it professionally, they're the ones that don't have the success.
Are there particular techniques or systems that are important when you're working with estate work, date of death and older appraisals? Do you see certain patterns there that are different, or challenges in your work, or challenges for the real estate agent on those transactions?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge with any of it is educating the consumer, because the people that come to me that get, even if referred from a realtor or the attorney, they're overwhelmed. I mean, to settle somebody's estate is quite the task. So the appraisal is like this portion of it,
Right.
But they don't understand, why am I getting an appraisal? Well, it's for the step-up basis for the date of death, or there's one of the heirs is contesting things, so they want that independent, unbiased
Right.
person to give their opinion.
Right.
But nobody understands what you're doing or why you're doing it half the time. So I do a lot of education of the consumer, of this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. The IRS requires it for any tax purpose reasons. The IRS specifically requires a certified appraisal from a certified appraiser, and that type of thing. So lots of education in that arena. And then just understanding that you're going to get properties in some pretty rough condition at times, and you might find some pretty unique situations. And being adept at appraising those types of properties is certainly very, very helpful.
Well, Glenn, I really appreciate the chance to share you with the people in my following, would be real estate agents or attorneys who work and particularly work with estates and estate administration, trust administration, probate and such, as well as other real estate. Literally, we're going to hang up the phone. I'm going to give you talk about a lead I'm working on right now. So that's how regular appraisers are for real estate agents. Thank you so much for your time today. For somebody who wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to talk to you about getting a quote or seeing if you can service them on an appraisal requirement?
Really, the two best ways are my cell phone, just to text me or call me, 626-264-4345, or go to my website, www.gaappraisalsinc.com. And you can fill out a form to get a quote and that type of stuff on there.
Fantastic, Glenn. Thanks. I'll put that information in the description in our YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. So however you guys are seeing this, it's down below. Glenn, thank you as always for your time. I know you're busy. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.